collectively what an Oracle server is. Okay, that's Oracle fundamentals, which are very imperative prereq knowledge to have. Okay, so basically, if you notice, this is called a command argument, a command line argument. We use slash as sysdba as our command line argument to SQL plus. And basically, what command line arguments do, not just in Oracle but in general, is that they typically alter the behavior of the executable of the program. So by doing slash as sysdba, what I'm saying is SQL plus is saying connect to whatever database the Oracle SID variable is currently set to. So SQL plus, you launch it, it's going to look at the value of the Oracle SID variable that you set. Okay, that value is finance, and it says as sysdba. So basically what this is saying is SQL plus connect to whatever Oracle underscore SID is set to, which is finance, connect to that database, and connect to it as the highest possible authority that a user can have. Remember, many different users at many different levels, authority levels, can connect to an Oracle database. Many different applications can connect to an Oracle database, okay, to store its data. All right, so by doing as sysdba, you're saying I am the master. I am the highest authority for Oracle. That's me. Okay. Now you're probably asking, how can you connect to an Oracle database? Because it does say connected. Okay. If it isn't created yet. We'll talk about that in an upcoming security video. Don't worry about that now. You can connect to a database that doesn't exist yet. Don't worry, we'll get into that. All right, so just know that you're connected to SQL. I think a better term would be you're connected to SQL Plus, okay, as finance. So how do we start up the Oracle database? Well, you guessed it, with a startup command. Notice every command in SQL while you're in the SQL plus CLI, which is the command line interface, must end with a semicolon. So every command that you enter in SQL plus must end in a semicolon. Now, how do you know that you're in the SQL plus CLI command line interface as opposed to the DOS CLI command line interface? Well, besides this copyright information up here, your prompt changed. Notice that when you're in DOS, your prompt was C:, and then the full path of the directory you're currently in. But notice as soon as you launched the SQL Plus program, you're now in the SQL Plus command line interpreter, which means that your prompt changed from C:, path to just SQL greater than sign. So that's how you know. So DOS commands really won't work in here anymore. So I type in dir, it says unknown command, even though it works out there. Same thing as vice versa. If I do startup in DOS, it won't work out there. It only works in here because it's an SQL plus command, not a DOS command, and vice versa. All right, getting back to our process here. When we did a startup, basically what the startup command does is it looks in the Oracle Home Database directory for the file init, whatever the database name, which is set by Oracle SID .ora, opens that file, determines what the database name is, and it says, okay, does this file tell me how big my memory structure needs to be? Because Oracle needs memory to work, okay? It needs to take memory upon startup from the computer system. It needs to take physical RAM and reserve it for its use, okay? And it's going to ask, is there anything in this parameter file? Because there's parameters that you can set in that file which set how big that memory is going to be, okay? How much memory you're going to allow Oracle to use. The operating system says, nope, P file just says DB name and control file in this case. So Oracle has some built-in internal defaults that it uses. So this right here is, ignore these for now. This is the number that this is the overall memory that Oracle can ever use on your computer system. In this case, it can use 150 meg. How do we know that? We count over from the right to left. We go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 3 digits with 6 after it. There you go. All right. Remember, there's 1,000 meg to a gig. Okay. Now, notice that after we did a startup, it said error in identifying control file. Check alert log for more info. We'll discuss what that means in a bit. Don't worry about that now. That error is okay. That's expected. Okay. I have created a bunch of scripts here that I use quite often when I work with Oracle databases at work or at home. And Oracle doesn't ship these. I created these scripts. and I created a directory on my system called Oracle/scripts, or folder, whatever you want to call it. Computer geeks call them directories. So let's take a look at createdb.sql. Now these commands are all SQL specific commands, SQL plus commands. And this command, as you can probably surmise by the name of the command, these commands right here result in a created Oracle database on your system. It creates the database. Okay. Now I could either copy every one of these lines into my buffer one by one, and then paste them in SQL plus, or I could just put them all into one file and then just run the file within SQL plus. Alrighty, that's what we're going to do. So I'm not going to go over every one of these commands, but we're just going to glance over it real quick. So we're going to do create database called finance, and we're going to create a file called a data file in the path database or a data finance called system01.dbf. It's going to be 300 meg in size. We're going to create another file in the same directory path called sysaux.01.dbf, which will be 120 meg in size. We're going to create a third file in the same path called temp01.dbf, which will be 10 meg in size. And we're going to create another file in the same path called undo.tbs1.dbf, okay, which right here is going to be 5 meg in size, but it's in K, so because there's 1,000 K in a meg. Okay. Then our character sets, don't worry about that, and our log files. We're going to create 3 log files, redo logs, 1, 2, and 3 in this directory path. Don't worry about what these files do. We'll discuss these files in a later video. Now, one annoying thing about Oracle is that it does not create these directories by default. So you need to create the directories where these files. Otherwise, the create database command. Remember, the create database command creates those files and your control file. All right, it creates the redo log files, your control files, your system file, your sysaux file, your temp file, and your undo file. Again, don't worry about what they do at this point. Okay, I'll go over that. All right, but it doesn't create those files if the directory path doesn't exist. So we're gonna create our directory path. So if you remember, they are in database. Then we're gonna create or data. Then we're gonna create the database name. Oh, there it is. So now, C:database or data finance. We created our directory structure for our database files. Now we can go ahead and execute the create database command, all right, which will create the database files in this directory structure. So how do we do that? Is we connect to the database via SQL+. Notice how it says connected to Oracle Database 11G Enterprise Edition, blah blah blah. That's because in our last step we did a startup and it failed at the startup stage or step where it mounts the control file. Again, don't worry about what that means. Okay, but the instance is started. The 150 meg memory chunk is allocated to Oracle, and all the background processes are started. Again, don't worry about what the background processes are. So, now that that's done, run the following command. Okay, this right here is a special character. The @ sign is a special character in SQL+, has special meaning. And basically what it means is the file that I give you, the path, Oracle scripts, so the file that's in Oracle scripts named createdb.sql, @ sign means execute it. Open it up and from line for line, feed it into SQL+ as if I was typing in the commands manually from the keyboard within SQL+. For my Windows guys out there, it's kind of like a batch file. For my Unix or Linux guys, it's kind of like a shell script. Okay, think of it as that. It's an OS command it's an OS file that we saw that has SQL+ commands in it, and the @ symbol just says execute those commands. Okay. So now what it's doing is it's formatting and creating those files in that path, database or a data finance path. Okay, that's where it's creating those files. And this basically creates the database. Not a usable database, which I'll explain, but a database shell. Okay, this is just part of the steps to get the database created. Okay, database, I paused the video while it was running. It only runs for a few minutes, but I didn't want to waste video time. So the database is created. Okay, so now if we get out of SQL, which shows that I create database command executed successfully. Now if we quit out of SQL Plus, we find ourselves back in database or data finance. If we dir, we will see that files are now are populated in this directory path. We have our control file, our 3 redo logs, our sysaux table space, our data file, our system data file, our temp data file, and our undo table space data file. Again, don't worry about what these files do just yet. Just know that you just created a database, not a functional database, but again, we'll use the term database shell. That's what you created. Now, the next step in database creation is, I want you to go back to your Oracle home, okay, which is Oracle App Product 1110 DB1, DB_1, and I want you to go to a directory. This comes with the Oracle. This is part of this directory is created with the Oracle Database Software Installation. The directory is called RDBMS. RDBMS, if you remember from slide 1, from video 1, means Relational Database Management System. So cd to that directory, and then cd to a directory admin, which is under RDBMS, dir. Look at all those files. A lot of files, right? To be exact, 1,400 files, 1,429 files. Now, all these files contain both SQL statements, commands, and PLSQL code blocks, which are basically programs that run within an Oracle database. They're written in an Oracle-specific programming language, okay? Which, that's a really advanced video. And so that's what all of these files that come with the Oracle software installation by default contain. But there are only 2 files that we're concerned with, 2 scripts, if you will. The first one is catalog.sql, and the second one is catproc.sql. Now, each one of these files contains both SQL commands and PLSQL blocks, Oracle programs, that are needed to create a functional database. Remember, all we did with the create database command was format the files that the database needed. When you use a database is used to store data. The database needs somewhere to store the data. That is files. So we created the files where we're going to store the data. We already did that. Now we need to make those files useful. We need to install the data in those files, not the data that's specific to company ABC or hypothetical company's finance department, but data, what we call metadata, META data, which is used to describe the database. It's the information that the Oracle engine, the Oracle executable, the database, needs in order to run your database. So by executing the catalog and catproc script, it's in turn, because these are what we call wrapper scripts, it in turn is going to call other SQL, PLSQL scripts in this directory, which are all going to do their job, their specific action to enable certain features of an Oracle database, or and populate the data files with things that the Oracle engine needs. Okay, so that being the case, we're going to execute our first. Now our database command has ran successfully. We're going to go ahead and execute this command. Okay, and basically, I'm now introducing you to another special character. This is like a variable, question mark. Question mark has a special meaning in SQL Plus, as the @ sign does. The @ sign says execute this OS script. Okay, this OS file, I'm sorry, with SQL commands in it.